we've already got, this is what, now our third one? Feel like it's,
Fourth? I want
yeah,
to say
something
fourth.
like that.
October?
Yeah, we did start in October. So,
Yeah.
yes. Okay,
Right
so
on.
here we are. We're gonna keep it simple today. Topic is getting back to basics. So we're not gonna get too bogged up in like too many heavy things today. We're just gonna talk have a topic called the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15. Now, if you don't know what those are, it's basically the environmental workers group makes a list every year of what is considered safe to eat and what's not safe to eat. We'll get more into details of like what the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15 mean. But for now, I just want to talk about the fact that we're starting a new year. We obviously are getting our gym memberships, eating healthier, trying to shed those 10 pounds that we gained over the Christmas season. So we're just going to talk about like getting into some really good tips to like start the new year strong so that you can carry them forward for the rest of 2025. So yeah, we're just gonna focus on that, and then we'll have any questions if you have at the very end, or open discussion of like what you could be considered to eat in season right now. But for the time being, Veronica, do you want to say anything before we start?
Um, this was one of the topics in nutrition school that really surprised me because the
Mhm.
things on this list are not going to be what you're expecting, some of them, and you're not going to want to give up everything on the dirty dozen. So,
Yeah.
if I could give you one piece of advice regarding that list before it horrifies and just makes you want to go hide, um, take it with a grain of salt. You don't need to cut them out 100% immediately and never eat them again.
Yeah.
That's not what we're saying. They're
No,
still healthier than a lot of processed foods and definitely healthier than junk food. So if you have the choice between a Snickers bar and something that's on the dirty dozen, it's still better to go for the vegetable.
of course. I like that.
Hmm.
And you can do your little disclaimer thing if you want.
Ah, yes. We're going to be adding this to the slideshow in sometime this week, probably, but we have a disclaimer now just to keep you guys all on the same page as us because Lindsay and I are not doctors.
Yep.
We are holistic nutritionists. We do not diagnose anything. We cannot
Yes, we
cure
do.
you. We cannot give you prescriptions. What we can do is make you a little bit more aware about what you're eating and why you're choosing to eat that stuff and help you make more informed decisions about what you're going to choose to eat in the future.
Mhm.
Yes. So please try to understand that we are at the advice of what your doctor says first and foremost. Okay?
Always talk to your doctor if you're going to change
Always.
anything about your fitness, your diet, your health, your lifestyle,
All
anything.
of the above.
Get them
Yeah.
on your team. Like make
Yep.
friends with your doctor. It really is beneficial.
So let's just start right off the bat with this one. Do, 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 do. Okay, so yeah, we're just gonna get right into it. I gotta make you guys a little bit smaller. I can't, so I can see you. Okay, so we're just gonna get right into basics. And Veronica, feel free to jump in. I feel like there's gonna be no way to like do our style today, so we're just
It's
gonna
no
have
worries.
to go back
We'll
and
wing it.
forth, and yeah, we'll wing it. Okay, so Veronica will probably agree with this. There's probably many different ways when it comes to produce. If you decide to buy produce and you are questioning of like where the crop came from, if it's in season or whatever, we always, always, always recommend to wash your produce. I'm not talking about rinsing it in the plastic container that it literally physically came into. I'm talking about putting it in a bowl, putting it in a colander, putting in whatever, sprinkling some baking soda over top of it, and letting it sit for a hot minute.
The
Okay,
other thing you
before
could use is apple cider vinegar. Just
that
put
too.
it in a spray bottle, dilute it
Yeah.
with a bit of water, spray it all over everything fresh you bring home.
Yep.
Just let
Because
it sit. It won't hurt it.
yeah.
And then just rinse it off before you eat it.
Anyways, okay, so that's the next step. Remember, I just brought up the plastic containers. Please try to eliminate the plastic as much as possible. Whether that's buying it's whether that's trying to like remove it from like the berry container that it came into, whether that's like putting it into a separate like jar later on. Yeah, just try as much as possible to eliminate the plastic that it came into.
And what you
So,
Why
store it
is
in.
that?
um,
Plastic packaging, like those
yeah,
Yeah,
The
yeah.
Yeah,
clear
go ahead.
containers that the berries come in,
With the holes in it. Yeah.
the bags or the wrap that they wrap the cucumbers in. You don't want that leaching into your food.
Mm.
If what I've started doing when I go to the farmer's market, I'll bring my own butcher's paper. I will bring my own cloth bags, and you just use those because everything, think of it like osmosis. All the junk from the plastic will osmosis into your food if it's
Yeah,
touching it.
so
So,
when we talk about plastics in school, we talk about phytoestrogens, okay? So a
mhm.
lot of things contain phytoestrogens. And when I say phytoestrogens, I mean sprays, I mean pesticides, I mean the GMOs and plastics, okay? You just can't say to yourself, um, yeah, like that's the whole reason this whole we're talking about today because a lot of the dirty dozen list will have these phytoestrogens on them
Mhm.
from the sprayed crops that they're in. So please just understand
Yeah.
that like I'm just trying to do an extra amount for people because when we say we're trying to eliminate these pesticides and stuff like that, it's usually because some people have a little bit of hormonal issues. So it's just good for your hormonal health, is what I'm trying to say here. Okay. Okay, so back to the topic. Yeah, we as we've highlighted over the past couple of segments, eating seasonally. Okay, eating seasonally is what's going to make your body happy. It's going to make everything go by, like make you healthier, happier, whatever. Like you'll feel the difference when you eat seasonally versus eating everything all the time, 24/7. It's just a lot on your body. And yes, it may help with reducing inflammation. It makes your gut happier for sure. You want to add anything to that, Veronica?
The only thing I might add is locally, also as local as possible, your body adapts
Yeah.
to the environment you're in.
Yes.
So the enzymes your body will produce, the way your body digests the food, and the way it stores the nutrients, it really depends on the environment you're in. So always be very aware and mindful of just like, you know what, it's the middle of February. Maybe vitamin C is good for your immune system, but that's not the season for oranges.
No, it's not.
Side note, oranges are also not local to Canada. So
No.
start thinking about other things that have vitamin C. Tomatoes have a notable amount of vitamin C. They're very local to Canada.
We do study quite a fair bit in school about like eating what your ancestors ate,
Yeah.
like the hunter-gatherer aspect
Look
of
up
like,
Paleolithic
yeah,
diet. It's the
yes,
hunter-gatherer kind of like
yeah,
old
eating
school way of living.
agreed. So next
But
topic,
Veronica,
Yeah.
there's nothing fresh right now, right? So
Oh,
what
there
would you
is.
recommend? What would you recommend?
root vegetables are
Squash,
fine right
like
now.
Mm,
tubers, like potatoes. You could do I love burdock root this time of year. Have you ever tried burdock?
Hmm.
no.
We talked about it in a couple of segments ago as the featured food, but burdock is the root, or the burdock root is the root of the burr plant, that, you know, those sticky burrs that
Yeah, we
stick on
talked
your
about it in our
clothes?
November segment.
Yeah. So the burdock root, really,
Remember?
really warming nutrients. It's very, very good for your digestive system. It's really good to get a lot of nutrients in a time when the fresh nutrients aren't readily available.
Beets.
Yeah,
Beets,
but
yep.
also Ivan understand that a lot of the produce at in the grocery stores right now too were picked at their freshness and have just been sitting. They sit a lot of things that sit at shelf life. That's why we talked about this time of the year is the best time to eat all your canned foods
Hmm.
because that you pick them when they were fresh and store them in jars. So if you wanted that orange because you know you get sick in January, you would have picked it in probably the summer and then you would have just like you could have frozen it, you could have turned it into a jam, you could have done many things. That's why a lot of us like people like me and Veronica will save certain things seasonally to
Hmm.
then store for the long term. Okay? So we have those available. And obviously when you're going to the grocery store, a lot of the frozen produce is picked at their season and just frozen.
Mm.
Obviously, we sometimes will stick like, those bananas in the freezer because we know we're not getting through them fast enough. It's the same effect. So you can do the same thing. You're just slowing down the process of it developing,
Yeah.
obviously. So that's, yes, you are correct. The season is really hard to eat, Ivan, but it's manageable, obviously.
Okay.
You just know exactly what you want. Okay, so fridge versus counter. I can't stress this enough. We actually had this conversation of like what goes on your counter versus what goes in your fridge. Okay. So a lot of your produce thrive better on the counter rather than in the fridge because when you think about it, when you walk into a grocery store, where's your produce? It's on shelves. It's not in a fridge, okay? So
Most of
in
it.
so if you're buying tomatoes and then bringing them home and putting them in your fridge, why? Did you buy them in the fridge rated section at your
Do they
grocery
grow in a
store?
fridge climate?
No, that's not the climate they were meant to be in. Um, there is obviously there is obviously some merit to like sticking things in a freezer to a fridge because it will eliminate some of those pesticides if you are concerned about something like that. But keep the vegetables and fruits in the climate that they came in. Okay? I know it may seem like they will go spoil faster, but we also as consumers overbuy when we go to the grocery
Oh,
store as well.
sorry.
No, go ahead.
What is the reason? Because like I keep my stuff in the fridge for a couple reasons that are no, I'm not gonna share them here. But anyway,
Yeah.
yeah, what is the reason you don't recommend keeping tomato in the fridge?
Because it will not be at its best nutritional value.
It
Okay?
degrades the nutrients.
You're
Why?
not going to get all the ingredients or all the nutrients by putting it in the place where it's losing all that.
But why, how is it losing that with the
Because
temperature?
it's not the natural climate that the food itself grows
Yeah.
in. If you think about it, a tomato doesn't grow in a fridge. It doesn't grow in a fridge climate. It
No.
grows in the heat of the summer.
No,
Yeah,
so
okay, but
I'm saying
like
that
They
the
keep it
whole
at
if I
room
put a
temperatures better.
bread in my fridge, the bread doesn't really lose the nutritional value by putting it in the fridge. It just
actually it does. If you put bread in a freezer, it will actually
I'm
lose some of
talking
its
about
food
the
properties.
fridge. I
Yeah.
understand
If
freezer.
you put bread in your freezer or fridge,
I'm talking, no, well, but it's a difference. Below zero, it's a big difference in how the nutritional value is being killed. The same with when there's a boiling point. But fridge, it's above zero. So you're also
it doesn't
saying,
matter. It does not
well,
matter.
no, no, it does matter. There's actual difference. When you go below zero, it kills nutrition. So what you're trying to say is that when you're above zero, it still kills some nutrition in the product.
I put my bread in the fridge because I'm gluten intolerant, and it will lose some of its gluten properties by being in the fridge. That's a
Okay.
fact, and I learned that in school, by the way.
Okay, okay. So you're saying it's losing the values because it's in the fridge and it's even worse in the freezer.
Correct.
Not
Okay.
necessarily. Freezer is good for long-term storage, but we talked about that a couple
No,
months
I
ago.
get it, but it still
Riskless.
loses, like vitamin C is gonna be killed in the freezer, some percent of
Yeah.
it, like the same with boiling. I get it. I'm not against freezer or anything, and I'm still gonna be using the fridge. I'm just trying to understand what's
Yeah,
the.
no, we can definitely talk about this more, Kinga, later on. I'm trying to focus more on produce, obviously, right now, but in the end, in the grand scheme of things, keep your produce in the climate that it came in because that's where its most nutritional value will come from. Okay? That's it. Bare basics. Okay? I'm not going to get into into like what happens in the fridge, what happens in the freezer. Just keep it in its natural climate, is what I'm trying to say here. And so, like, even Veronica mentioned this morning too, like keeping your potatoes in a dark cellar because it came from the ground. And
A
so,
root
keeping it
cellar.
in a root cellar. Yes.
Everyone should have a root cellar. People who live in condos don't have this anymore. But
Yeah.
people like old school houses, they have a basement and there's typically a room and the walls are like usually wood or
Mm-hmm.
dirt. They're not drywall. They're
Yeah.
not insulated. So it's cold. It's a wonderful way to store food.
Yeah, I agree. So, and then we'll get back into this again. Compost. So obviously, as we're going to be adding things from our house into the new year into our compost, we're going to try to avoid things like acidic vegetables and fruits because they can like throw off the pH balance of the soil. And we obviously try as much as possible. Like if you did buy something on this dirty dozen list that we're about to talk about, we want you to think about the fact that it's going to do this same effect to your soil as well if you put it back into the soil. So the seed itself, the product itself, and how it was transported all can be factored into like it being dirty, basically like dirty. And like I said, we'll talk about like what classifies it as a dirty dozen, but basically we are just going to try to make our compost as happy as possible, okay? Because some things are thrown off by it. So, anyways, let's get into the dirty dozen. Now, has anybody heard the term the dirty dozen? I want to like put your hands up if you have.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. No? No? Okay. So, I'm gonna exit out of this because I need to look at my note. So, the dirty dozen is the fruits and vegetables sprayed with the most amount of pesticides year round. Okay. This is due to overconsumption, traveling, like if it's coming from like avocados coming from Mexico to Canada, that's traveling. Or to keep the crop from dying in harsh climates. So say global warming is happening or climate change is happening in your area and you know your crop is not going to thrive. That's when a lot of times they'll spray GMOs, pesticides, all those things to keep the crop living until it's in its full bloom. Okay. Some fruits and vegetables are more GMO than their original DNA now. Now we're not going to get into which ones are which, but I will tell you right now that obviously when we think about corn was originally made as feed for animals, not for consumption of humans. Okay, it is really harsh on our stomach, on inflammation, on all of that. So, but so getting back to all this, pesticides, which is like what we spray and everything like that, may affect your brain development, heart conditions, cancers, and hormone levels. That's why I brought up plastics, Ivan, because you don't want a berry that has already been sprayed in pesticides to affect your hormone development to sit in plastic where it's going to keep excreting that, obviously. So if you do know somebody with like any of these issues, I would highly recommend that you try to go more organic and to stay away from what I'm about to show you on the Dirty Dozen, because those foods could affect or make their condition possibly worse. Okay. So let's just get right back into it. I gotta move you guys again because I don't want to see your faces. Okay, so we're gonna go backwards. So when I say I'm gonna basically explain this. Number 1 on the Dirty Dozen list is the worst. Number 12 is on the
not worst.
still on the is the least worst. Yes. So as we go along, I'll explain to you like where these sit on like an actual list, basically. But
What makes green beans so bad?
Yeah.
Veronica.
Pesticides.
Yeah, so everything on
heavily
this list
sprayed.
has been heavily sprayed with pesticides.
It's not just pesticides. Some of these foods have been genetically modified. Some
Yep.
of these foods have been, they call it selective breeding, which people do with farm animals too. And that's something to be consider when you're choosing your food sources. But like if it's been hormonally adapted to suit a different climate or to suit certain conditions, if it's been genetically modified, if it's had its characteristics of a fruit or vegetable. If you look at strawberries, the strawberries that are available in grocery stores right now. So A, those are not in season right now. Why are you eating those?
So
B, those do not grow in Canada right now. Why are you eating those? And C, no self-respecting strawberry is this big and bright and beautiful. They're small. They're got tons of flavor, tons of just nutrients in them. Those big ones, no flavor. There's like, why are you eating that?
So a good rule of thumb when it comes to the Dirty Dozen is if they don't look like their normal size, their regular color, their taste, I can almost guarantee you they were sprayed. Okay. It does say on the EWG's website, it says green beans joined the Dirty Dozen because it was tainted by a pesticide that the EPA banned over 10 years
Roundup?
ago. Probably. Just so you guys know, just because we live in Canada does not mean we don't get our produce from the United States. And the United States does not has as many limitations and rules as we do. We are still allowed to import those items, but we ourselves, like if they are a Canadian-based company, they have to follow the Canadian-based guidelines. And if they are still being imported over the border by Canada, Mexico, wherever, they don't have to follow those rules. Okay. So it doesn't mean that we don't get them. Okay.
Yep.
We still get them. They just don't have to follow our standards of Canada's rules. Okay. Just to make this clear. Okay. So obviously blueberries are same thing again. Traces of several toxic pesticides as well. You obviously have seen like the blueberries that look really, really, really tiny, and then the ones that look like ginormous ones. Okay. Do you think that the big ones are the ones that are good? Like we all have common knowledge here, people. We all walk into grocery stores, have bought these produce 1,000 times over. We know what our brain has said. Oh, those are really big. Oh, those look really look less blue. We know.
Interesting fact about fruits and vegetables that are abnormally large. Growth hormones. This is a thing that gets
Yes,
added to our
that's another
food
one.
to make it bigger.
Yes. Those are things too, people. So a lot of companies will use growth hormones to make crops bigger or things last longer, whatever the reason. Okay.
Actually, can I just say one thing?
Yep.
So like I actually grew up in Poland, and like the blueberries you guys have here, this is a mix between a wild berry and another
Yep.
thing. It's a genetic mix. So it's not even a regular berry. Like you would find them in the forest and they will stain your fingers. Those are actual
That's
blueberries.
real
Yes.
blueberries. They
If
taste
you go
better
out to
too.
a forest, you'll see blueberries grow in the wild, and they're tiny.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
eat blueberries when I'm in the park in the summer all the time. When I go for a walk, it takes me longer to go for a walk because I might eat a couple cups of blueberries off the things.
Maybe. You never know. You can always, like I said, Michael, wash your produce if you are buying something that's off the dirty dealer. And let's make this very clear. Organic is obviously going to be a better option, but does not mean it's still completely safe. Okay? So even if I say to you, go and buy blueberries that are organic, they still might have other added things to them. We want you
I
to just be more conscious of that.
I
Okay?
think organic is such a
Yeah, we're not gonna get into the politics
it's
of
a fraud
organic.
because all produce is organic.
No,
And
you're right to a degree.
and
Like,
if
no,
they
the,
want to
of
call it pesticide free,
course.
which is I think what they're trying to say, is then they have to filter the water and the soil because every time it rains, pesticides come down in our rain.
They'd also have to grow them in a greenhouse because it floats over in the air on the breeze.
Absolutely,
Yes.
absolutely.
It's
Yeah.
terrible.
Yes,
So
no.
the whole organic thing is, I think it's just
Yeah,
a big
we'll
ripoff.
have a conversation about organic in the future for sure.
The moral
But
of the story is just grow your own.
yeah, just grow your own. If you can. Okay, so we're gonna move on to the next one. If
Wow.
anybody, yeah, yes, Kristen's right. There's always a risk of organic being touched by runoff. So I also obviously learned in school that you could have a crop literally right here that's organic and a crop right here that is not organic.
Yep.
Okay, sitting right next to each other, touching the same soil. So yes, if you are worried about if you do buy organic and you want to look up, just look it up. There's tons of information of like organic versus not. So okay, next one, hot and bell peppers. They're both in the same category. Okay, people. So for that one, there was no notes on the EWG. Ivan,
Well,
let's
if
talk about
you-
apples.
Can I make a comment about the peppers first?
Sure.
If you look at a pepper at the grocery store, it is huge, it is flawless, it's big and beautiful and bright, and that's not a pepper. Peppers are lumpy and misshapen. They've got weird spots, but they're tasty and they have nutrients.
Yeah.
If you program out the nutrients in the interest of having a better looking pepper, you're losing a lot.
Yep. Agreed. No, you're right. Ivan, let's talk about apples.
Yeah. Well, I know that the shocking thing, I mentioned this before, that I learned is that apples that we pick up in the grocery store were picked a year ago.
Mhm.
And and if I picked an apple off of a tree out in the forest, out in the woods, after about 8 days, it'll start to go bad, right? To have an apple I'm picking up in the store that still looks beautiful and plump and everything else, that was picked a year ago. There's got to be something wrong. And the last thing is, a lot of the green apples, when I cut them open, they're brown on the inside, which I don't even know what that means, but
That's just the oxidative effect.
Yeah.
8 days is an overstretch. Like, I mean, you can
Yeah.
keep apples for a long time, but a year is a very long time.
it's a long
you
time.
gotta
Yeah,
think
but
too.
Ivan's
Think
right.
seasonally.
Ivan's right about apples getting picked a year ago, because if you really think about it, go to the grocery store, how many different types of apples are you seeing? And they're always full, okay? Like, do you
I'm not
think
saying he's not right, but I mean, like, by saying that the actual apple from the tree would die in 8 days, that's a stretch. Like, even back in Poland, where everything was organic in communism, we had apples for a long time. Same with
Not a year
Yeah, but
though.
that's still on.
No, I don't think
No.
so. No, that's more like a potato, but not an apple.
Yeah,
Mm.
but apples on as when they sit on the tree, they're obviously still getting the life force from that tree. So as soon as they are picked, they have to be. But anyways, the point is that you could still easily heavily genetically modify these products. That's why apples were yeah, so apples are the most biggest produce that is doused with chemicals after harvest. Okay? Like they are sprayed.
So can I
Yeah, go ahead.
just ask a question? So you know where you go down to the farm and they have the tree farms and you go down there and you pick your own apples. Does that stop that process so that you're catching them before they start dousing them with chemicals, or are the chemicals already
Sometimes.
on the tree?
Sometimes. Depends what they treat the trees
Depends.
with,
You'd have
depends
to
how
look
they
into the
raise them,
episode.
depends how they water them, depends on the environment, what's blown over. Like there's a lot of
Yeah,
factors.
so when we
Hmm.
say not when we say pesticides and GMOs and all this, we're talking about the seed that it grows from. We're talking about the environment it is in, so it could be sprayed while it's on it
Hmm.
and after the effect. So it's the whole process could have
Mhm.
been
Yeah,
modified
because
at some point.
there's also worms. Like if you have apples that are not apple trees that are not sprayed, you're gonna have worms in apples.
Yeah, so
Same with cherry. No, I'm just saying.
no, no,
So,
no. No,
so
it's
that
okay, King. I'm trying to just point out that worms are a part of life. I'm sorry, but like anything that
no,
comes from the ground
I
that's touching
get
the
it,
ground.
but that's maybe not something that the Canadian customer is used to. So anyway, that's
Of
what I'm
course.
saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're
So they're
No, no,
spoiled
like
no.
here.
they will spray the trees before they even spray the apples just to get rid of a lot of bugs because fruit trees are very prone to insects. So yeah.
Yeah, but we've been programmed into our brain that that's why we heavily exercise at the beginning of all this is washing things. Like
Yep.
no thing that you're touching is not going to get touched by a bug at some point or something from the ground. Okay? Our mentality is that we're too spoiled, in my opinion. Like if there's a worm on it, then okay,
No,
goodbye worm.
the worms are
Yours
inside.
inside. Yeah.
In
Yeah.
an
Yeah.
actual, if you don't spray your trees, like pretty much 100% of the fruit is gonna have a little worm inside. So you open it up, you kick out the worm, and that's how you eat it. That's what I grew up on. So
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. No, that
that's
makes sense.
organic.
Okay, so back to the topic. Nectarines are obviously high on the list too, but apples are the number one because as you can tell, when you go to the grocery store, they have more apples than pretty much any other type of anything. So, okay, let's try to power through because we have a lot of topics. Pears are obviously on the next on the list, peaches and grapes. But grapes to me is let's get into this. Pears among the most pesticide contaminated fruit, okay? And all the
Really?
yeah, they're high up there with apples, okay?
Because they're sprayed.
Jeez.
Yes. Peaches are pack a punch when it comes to pesticide contamination as well. Think about like peach festivals in like August and stuff like that. Think about like pies and jams and everything. A lot of them have peach yogurt. All of them have peach flavored whatever. Okay, so overconsumption is what I'm trying to say here, people, is
And
why
that
they probably sprayed them.
peaches
Uh,
are another instance where you look at the fruit itself, and then if it's an organic peach, it's like small and
yes.
flavorful and juicy, whereas the ones from the grocery store are huge and flawless and really,
Yeah.
really hard. Like you can't even bite them.
Yeah, I agree. And
It's just
then
not natural.
no, you're
Hmm.
right. And then grapes. Now, when I say grapes, I'm not just talking about you eating grapes. That's why I specifically chose this picture. I'm talking about wine. Okay? The wine industry has made grapes so unhealthy at this point because we are obviously overproducing wine. We're obviously shipping wine. Like I talked to a local wine or owner, like winery owner, and she told me that if you bought the same bottle of wine from the LCBO versus at the farm version of it will have way less pesticides and GMOs because they are making it last longer for the LCBO shelf life
Hmm.
that they are
Yep.
required to.
Hmm.
Okay. So just consider that whenever you're buying wine the next time, or even grape juice for that matter, because a lot of wineries also sell grape juices as well. Okay.
What about,
Um,
okay, a lot of wineries I know now are going, like, talking about being sustainable
of course.
and,
It just talks
organic and
about
stuff.
their
Yes, and there
processes.
are a lot of wineries in the Niagara region that have to set certain step ethics and standards now
Mhm.
because they're in the Niagara region, okay?
Yeah.
be like a lot of the locals there do not want to like live around a farm that obviously gets sprayed 24/7,
Mhm.
especially if they own a $2 million mansion there. So
Yeah.
makes perfect sense. I'm sure Maggie understands that completely. Okay, so this
Yeah.
is the top ones, guys. Does this make you sad? Does this make you think when was the last time I had a strawberry or spinach or kale?
Mm.
Okay.
I avoid spinach like the plague, but
No, that's good because we actually don't recommend a lot of people eat a lot of spinach because of how badly it's sprayed.
There's
Grow
nothing
my own
Um,
sacred.
spinach
I never
because it's
liked
just
it.
better.
I've never liked spinach.
I
yeah.
just grow my own spinach because you can grow it.
Yes.
Usually, I'm probably going to be planting my spinach in the beginning of March
Yeah.
on
Mm.
my balcony here, just in a window box. I
Yep.
keep it right next to the foundation of the building because that keeps it warmer enough.
Yep.
Homegrown spinach is better. So
Agreed.
that's not so much a dirty dozen when you grow it yourself.
No, agreed. Okay, so kale is obviously on the list, collard and mustard greens. We'll obviously get into more greens and more berries and more whatever, but strawberries was number one, guys. So yeah, spinach is packed with nutrients, but also the EU banned pesticides on that one. More than half of the kale samples tainted had a cancer-causing pesticide. Okay, for kale. And that's on the EWG website. That's not me saying that. I'm saying that out loud, okay, people? Um,
Mm.
and yes, the average strawberry, Americans eat about 8 pounds of fresh strawberries a year, and with them, dozens of pesticides, including chemicals that have been linked to cancer and reproductive issues, are banned in Europe on American strawberries. Okay. So next time you buy strawberries, I just highly recommend you buy them, one, in season, and two, not from an American company. Okay. If you can, as much as possible. And yes, you can find them or grow them yourself or whatever. So
Go
that's
to pharmacy in the
yep,
Hamilton Farmers Market,
yep,
lower level, right, kind of right in the middle. They've got fresh out the Ontario greenhouse, no pesticides included, strawberries year round,
yep.
and it's 2 packages for $5 usually. So
Okay, guys, we're gonna get into a lighter topic now, make you feel
Cool.
less bad about what you're about to eat. So we'll talk about the Clean 15. So just the Clean 15. So if you're looking at the EWG website, it goes the Dirty Dozen, then it goes the things that are in the gray area, and then number 32, which I'll reiterate this at the very end, is considered the clean 15 list, okay? So I'm going to go through the clean 15 list and then we're going to talk about what the things are that are in the middle, like in the gray area of like they could lie between the both, okay? So the clean 15 are the best fruits and vegetables year round, but still should be eaten seasonally, of course, for what we talked about. And just so you guys know, these lists change every year. This is currently 2024's list. So I'm sure somewhere halfway between the year and they'll do the 2025 list. Okay. So let's get into the best ones. Carrots. Woohoo. Watermelon, sweet potatoes. We all love these. I hope so, at least. I love all three of these things.
I
I
hate
don't like
carrots.
watermelon. I hate watermelon.
That's
And
okay.
I'm not a big fan of sweet potatoes either.
I don't
That's
hate
okay.
watermelon. I'll eat it once in a while. I never go and buy one, but I would, if it's there, it's like a little piece here and there I'll have, but that's about it. I
Yes.
absolutely hate carrots. Always have. Sweet potatoes, yeah, it's just something
Yeah,
I
but when
don't
we
look
say sweet
for.
potatoes, I'm talking about like that category of the potato family as
Yeah.
well. So sorry, I'm pulling up the clean 15 now list. Okay, so yes, basically carrots, watermelon, sweet potatoes, those are like at the bottom. So they're technically closer to like what was it? Yeah, it doesn't matter. So yeah, 32 would be number one, and that would be like they just got out of like being cleared. Okay, so no, 15 is carrot. 15 carrots is the best, and watermelon and sweet potato are the best. Okay, because they're at the bottom of the list. Okay, so next we'll talk about mangoes. Mangoes are great. We love them. Okay, different types of mangoes. Mushrooms, guys. Okay.
my
So
favorite.
Love them.
Yeah.
My
Love
favorite.
'em
The
too.
entire like the whole mushroom kingdom is just so fascinating because they have such huge healing potential.
yeah.
And people, especially for this time of year, because they like all mushrooms boost your immune system. Even those little button mushrooms that everyone uses in their cooking,
Yeah.
they're still good for your immune system. So really, really good idea this time of year.
I'm a big
Perfect.
fan of the Cremonese because I always buy everything at the wholesale place, and
Nice.
they're just the same price.
Mhm.
It's fresher, obviously, because it hasn't gone through the grocery store distribution network.
Guys, I also want to point out that mushrooms should be brown. Obviously, cremini mushrooms, like the white ones, are still a little bit white, and brown. But if they're white, I can almost guarantee you they are being sprayed with bleach at one stage or the other. Okay.
It depends where you got, because puffball mushrooms, I hike up north in
Yes.
Muskoka, and puffball mushrooms are white usually.
Yes, of course. There are naturally white fungi,
But just
but
think of it this way, if it's not the color it usually would be in nature,
yes,
it's been toyed with.
correct.
I,
So
I
just
kind
keep that in.
I worked on the mushroom farm and we picked, when are they sprayed? Because we picked mushrooms and like from being picked, they were kind of packed. So like when are they sprayed them still when
You
they're
can almost guarantee spraying is happening in before transportation. Okay.
oh, okay.
But
It's a
Also they
I'm also
preservative.
can
talking
go
the seed could also be as well. It's complicated. I'm not into like the biochemistry of like how everything is grown, obviously, but 9 times out of 10, when something needs to be transported somewhere far away or wherever, it's getting sprayed at that point
yeah,
to like have that effect. Okay. That's how when I say carrots, when I say carrots, see how the carrot on this screen here looks full form. We're not talking about baby carrots. Baby
Oh,
carrots are
don't
not
eat baby carrots.
do not eat
They're
baby
soaked in
carrots
chemicals.
and
Like,
bleach. And
it's
does a carrot look like
terrifying.
this? No, a carrot looks like this. Okay. Yes. So, and then obviously cabbage is really good for like cooling and everything like that. So it's always good to have it like in a soup at this time of the year so that it's like a
Cabbage
natural
rolls.
cooling effect on you. So yeah, we love the cabbage. Okay.
Mhm.
Next kiwis. So
Hmm.
kiwis, okay, I'm gonna highlight this for a little bit. There are fruits and vegetables like broccoli, cauliflower, kiwis that have a natural defensive system to themselves. See the fur on top of it, like peaches and all that? They fight off certain things because of that fur. Okay. So broccoli has, if you see broccoli being formed properly, you'll see crystals on broccoli sometimes. That's them fighting off certain things. So a lot of fruits and vegetables have naturally fighting properties towards these chemicals as well. Okay. They're doing their best to survive. And so when you see like the fur on a fruit, that means that they're like naturally have a defense against them. Okay. Just like any animal would. If an animal has like a shell, that's their defense system. Okay. So that's like, see, same thing, cantaloupe. We're not eating the rind of the cantaloupe. Okay. We're eating the inside of it. So that's why some of these things make sense that they are not higher because they're already fighting against those chemicals and stuff that are being put onto them. Okay. Um, and then of course, asparagus. Not sure if everybody likes asparagus or
Mm.
what, but I love asparagus. It's my
Yeah.
favorite.
It
It's
gets so
good.
expensive and at this time of year.
Yeah, so that's another if something is really expensive now, it's because it's not in season, people.
Mhm.
Okay? When
Also,
you see
asparagus.
berries and bananas and all those things being sold in the summer at like a really good price, it's because they're in season.
Mhm. Well, also, asparagus is really easy to grow on your own. It takes about 2 years for it to actually produce, but it's so worth it. Homegrown asparagus is the most delicious thing you'll ever eat.
Yeah, I actually have homegrown
Mhm.
asparagus, so
I tried it once out in the garden, and I got like 3 asparagus after 4 years.
you realize it takes 4 years, right, Michael? It
Like
takes
I
4
said, I
years.
got 3 asparagus after 4 years, and
Well,
then I just gave up.
apparently, when the asparagus sprouts for the first couple years, the seeds will spread, like from the wind being blown and stuff like that. But yeah,
Yeah,
Mhm.
you
didn't
could
work.
have grown more.
Takes a
No, I
couple
get it.
years to establish itself, but it's worth it.
It
Well,
is
like I
worth
said,
it.
I did 4 years of it, and then I just gave up because,
Well,
like I
it's
said,
not going to go away, question mark.
it did.
Interesting. Okay. Harsh climates. Here we are, people. Oh, okay. Let's get back into this. Number 6, sweet peas, but I have to say frozen. And yes, if you look on the list on the website, it does say frozen. Okay. Because it's back to what I was saying to Kinga about like storing things in the fridge will make it less, like the sprays and the pesticides and everything will break down. Okay. But yeah, sweet peas frozen, papaya That's a good option. And obviously onions. Now, if we don't know this about onions, onions are self-sacrificing. So they actually, when you're sick, that's why they say usually keep like an onion by your bedside, or like back in the day when when the world wars were happening, you would put like onions in the bottom in like a bag or in like a towel, wrap it around your foot, and just like sleep like that for the night. Okay. Onions are very resilient. They're not gonna just accept lots and lots of things. Okay. But yeah, papaya. Everybody needs to start eating more papaya. I love it. It's my favorite of all the fruits out there. Okay, so was anybody shocked by this one? This is in the gray area of the clean 15, but still on the clean 15. Who likes pineapple?
I love
Yep.
pineapple.
Yeah.
Pineapple's good.
I might comment about the sweet corn though, because a lot of corn is GMO, so you really got to watch where you source yours from. Ontario corn is obviously better than any corn you're going to get from anywhere else, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But it's
Yeah,
just really
Sidra sweet corn is on the list.
it's
100%.
just a good idea to be aware of where your food's coming from. If you can, like find out. When I moved to Hamilton, I went around the farmers market. I introduced myself to all the farmers. I went and toured a couple of their farms just to see what it was like and what they were actually doing for their processes and how they were growing things, because I want to eat the best stuff, and that's how you do it.
Yeah, no, you're right. Yes, and yes, Lisa, I love avocados. Avocados are probably one of the most healthiest fats you could have if you're trying to up your fat intake for the day.
Coconut.
Um,
Mm.
I
yeah,
love
so
coconut.
that's what I agree with Sidra. Like, why is sweet corn? But you have to understand, Sidra, it's on the very top, which means it's very close to being on like the middle or the dirty dozen too. Okay. So I don't know why. I don't know why the EWG said that sweet corn should be on it, but here we are. So this is why I wanted to show you guys this list, because while we know as nutritionists this list exists, we're still not going to recommend corn to a lot of people. Okay. We're going to obviously tell you that is not the healthiest. Obviously, places like Mexico, they're using it a lot as like a grain and stuff like that too. But
They grow their
we
stuff differently there.
Correct. They also grow their stuff differently there. Okay. And obviously when we think about avocados, we do obviously get them from like Mexico or California or wherever in the States and stuff like that. So, but same thing again, like I said, they all three of these have hard shells on the outside as well. Keep that in mind as well. When we're eating sweet corn, we're taking off the rind. When we're eating a pineapple, we're chopping off the skin. And same thing with the avocado, we're just eating the insides. We're not eating the out. Okay. So these products are obviously getting the brunt of like the GMOs and the pesticides and stuff like that when those shells are still there. So, because we obviously remove them ourselves. Okay.
I'm surprised you didn't have squash on your list anywhere, because that's like, once again, it's one of those things you eat the inside.
Yeah, so if I
of.
go back to see the full list, squash, you said?
Yeah.
Let me look and see if it's in the middle area. Yeah, winter squash is number 14. That's why. Number 14. So still technically not the dirty dozen, but in the middle. Okay? That makes sense. I'll post in the chat the list and you guys can see like the 1 to like 40 something or whatever it is, okay? 50 something. Anyway,
Interesting side note about the bananas on that list there.
yes.
Bananas are actually extinct. So the ones that we eat nowadays are a genetic modification,
Yeah.
just because originally bananas had seeds that were like this big in them. They were more seed than fruit.
Yeah.
And if we saw one of those nowadays, we'd probably lose our minds, because that's not a normal banana. That's weird, but that's just an idea. It's just a
Yeah.
perception.
So, yeah, no,
Eat,
you're right. I
eat
agree with that.
historically, like
Same with oranges.
research what your ancestors ate and then eat that.
Yes, of course. So, yes, back to this. So, when I say the number Um, when I say the number 13, tomatoes, that's one off from the dirty dozen. Okay? Like if you're number 1 on the dirty dozen, you're the most heavily sprayed. And if you're number 12, you're still heavily sprayed enough to be considered the dirty dozen. Okay? So 13 is not far off, people. And especially tomatoes that are like You know, the very different colors, the ones that are like put into plastic packaging, stuff like that. Keep that in mind. So when we think about tomatoes, if you're having, I always tell people if they are having an allergic reaction, like they're getting a rash or they're getting irritated or they're having migraines all the time, I immediately ask them, the first thing I ask is when was the last time you had tomatoes? Because it's a histamine, guys. Okay. Like just like oranges, just like anything that is considered like high on those histamine levels, tomatoes
Mhm.
is usually there. And I'm not talking about the fact that tomatoes are themselves very like acidic or whatever. I'm talking about the fact that they are sprayed. Okay. So obviously, if somebody is coming to me and they're telling me that they are not feeling the greatest, I'd be like, okay, when was the last time you had tomatoes? I can what do you think of when you think of tomatoes? Chili, pasta, pizza. Okay? Common items that we're eating all the time. Okay?
That's why everybody should have a garden. Grow your own tomatoes.
Yes.
I grew, I had 4 tomato plants this season. Out of those 4 tomato plants, I got, I think, 19 jars I canned of these tomatoes that grew. And now I'm working my way through those because it's winter, so they were picked at their prime, they were canned
Yep.
right away. They preserve all that nutritional value and they're going to last me for months still.
Yep.
That's the way. If you want to do anything on the dirty dozen list, if you're growing it yourself, it's less bad.
Yep. Agreed. And then obviously we all eat a ton of cucumbers, I'm assuming. I eat a lot of cucumbers, so I'm just saying that out loud.
Mm.
Broccoli is obviously a common one. That's number 21. We're obviously we talked about potatoes earlier. So like I said, the clean 15 starts at 32. So cauliflower is just right above that. Okay. Obviously bananas is right above that as well. When somebody tells me they're eating a lot of strawberries, I just immediately say go to raspberries because I know that they're on a better scale than
Mhm.
strawberries, obviously. Number 1 is strawberries, number 25 is raspberries, okay? So just keep that in mind. And then oranges. Now, I'm not talking about the oranges that are seedless. That's a GMO,
Yep.
obviously. We're not talking about oranges, okay?
Actually,
So,
side note, grapes have seeds too.
well,
Like a
that too.
lot of fruits and
Yes.
vegetables have seeds that we've programmed out of that because people don't like seeds in their fruit. So the farmers and everything have programmed it out of them so they don't
Yeah.
grow them anymore. It's not natural.
Yeah, so anything you see seedless, like watermelon, oranges, grapes, they had seeds at one point.
Mhm.
How do you think they eliminated them? Do you think they opened them up, took out the seeds, sewed them back together? No. They put a chemical in there to do that. So, okay. So, just so you guys know, for February's topic, it will be on February the 4th. We're going to be talking about heart health to get involved in, like, Valentine's Day. We're going to be discussing, like, I'm just going to stop sharing. So yes, February will be a good topic for anybody who is like conscious about their heart health or they want to be a little bit more, or we're going to give it like a big shout out to like um something like some fruits and vegetables that are good for your heart that you may not think are good for
And a
your heart.
couple herbs too, because there's
That too.
a lot you can do
Hmm.
with like teas or tinctures through herbal medicine to benefit your heart. Like I don't know if any of you have heard of hawthorn berries,
Hmm.
but it's one of the tonic herbs for your cardiovascular system. The saying is hawthorn for the heart.
Yeah.
So it's
Hawthorn.
it's a super tasty berry. It tastes kind of like a cranberry and a raspberry combined. Really super tasty. You can make a tea out of the flowers,
Yep.
and it's all very, very beneficial for your cardiovascular system.
Okay, so before we part ways and everything, I want to ask, does anybody have any more questions about like the Dirty Dozen, the Clean 15, or like better practices at home? Like ask away right now because we have 10 minutes and I want to know like if you're going to start thinking about switching from strawberries to raspberries instead during the season. Trying to think of what's in season right now.
Roots,
Yeah, right.
potatoes,
Squash.
squash,
So yes,
mushrooms,
Kinga,
some
are you going
mushrooms.
to think a little differently when it comes to going forward? Kinga? Okay. Um,
Or celery. Didn't see that either.
here, I'll tell you. Okay. Celery. Wonder if it was on the list here. 16.
Okay. So it's in the middle.
Yeah. If I didn't bring up anything today, it's because it's in the middle of it's like the gray area or whatever.
It's easy enough to find out where things sit. It's just a Google search away.
So as bad as it sounds, you could buy lettuce and it would be 17 and spinach would be on the dirty dozen. Okay? So lettuce. We obviously always recommend arugula is always the best when it comes to oxalates. If you don't know what an oxalate means, it just means that it's like St. Joe's does an oxalate list for people who are like high in cancer because oxalates are what's contributing to your like T cell count sometimes. Case see, it doesn't matter. So anyways, yeah,
What it
cucumber.
comes down to, basically listen to your body.
Yeah.
If it likes what you're eating, it'll tell you. It'll also tell you if it doesn't like what you're eating. So act accordingly, like make informed decisions. Don't just opt for the easiest option.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, so same thing. Like grapefruit is number 26, eggplant is number 24, plums. So the EWG, so I'm gonna type this website in actually right now before I forget. The EWG does does a good job of like looking at where most of these crops are coming from and then just taking like like evaluating what they're doing basically so that they're not like when I said like, oh, some of these things are got like this pesticide that has been banned, they will go and evaluate a company and see which pesticides like Roundup or any of the other ones and see like how often they're spraying, what they're doing basically. The EWG does a really good job of like telling you exactly what is in season and stuff like that too. So if you're ever on their website, go and check them out. Like they have the Dirty Dozen, they have the Clean 15. They give you like they have a newsletter where they give you tips on like how to make your produce better, how to eat better, all that stuff. So they do a really good job of like monitoring things for you if you're like really concerned about those kinds of things. Um, Obviously, whenever we have like heart conditions or like cancer or anything that's like inflammatory, our doctors are, I would hope, are recommending us to eat better. So a lot of them will give lists like this. So if you know somebody who is like in those categories, I highly recommend that you like send them this list or whatever and say, this is what you should be considering when you're eating going forward so that you're not making your condition worse. Okay. So, and when I say same thing, like, okay, we're obviously not like if we love strawberries, can't avoid them. Like, that's the only thing our child eats on like a Sunday afternoon. Okay, fine. That's why I said at the very beginning of all this, wash them properly. Properly. Okay.
For strawberries, what I do, honestly, because I eat a lot of them, it's my boyfriend's favorite food. I will take the strawberries, trim the little green bit off them, and then put all those strawberries in a big mixing bowl, fill it with water, and put about 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar,
Yep.
swirl around, and then just let it sit. Leave it there for like 10 minutes. The water will turn disgusting. So
Yep.
rinse it really well. Put it in a clean bowl of water again, swirl it around, rinse it. Get all that junk out because you don't want to be eating that.
No, exactly. You want to be eating the strawberry,
You want to eat the
not the things
strawberry,
that
not the
came
stuff
attached
on
to
the
it,
strawberry.
not the things that came attached to it. Okay. That's actually one of the biggest reasons why people get salmonella and very sick because they eat out of season or they don't wash their produce enough. Okay.
Mhm.
Like, just when you get home from the grocery store, do what I do. You make that bowl, you put them in that bowl, you put baking soda in it, you let them sit for
Mhm.
a long time, like Veronica said, rinse them out, wash them again, do whatever. It's like, are you planning on eating like all the bananas, all the oranges, all the produce as soon as you came home from the grocery store? No. So why just let them sit in your sink until you're ready to put them away or it's like dinner time or whatever. It could sit literally in that bowl all day. You could go to work.
Some things. I
You
wouldn't
could.
leave berries in a bowl of water because
No,
it'll
I wouldn't because they're
it'll
very
absorb
delicate.
the
Yeah,
water,
Mm.
but
of
just
course.
you don't need to leave it long. The other thing you can do is
Yes.
just line your produce up on your kitchen counter,
Yeah.
give it a spray, get a spray bottle with some apple cider vinegar and some water or some lemon juice and some water, spray it all over the produce, let it sit,
Yeah. So
then
yes,
give it a rinse.
obviously better practice is washing your fruit, making sure that you're just like washing them. Like even like if you don't like the skin of a zucchini, like most people don't, you just peel it off.
I
Okay?
love it. That's one of my favorite
No,
parts.
I'm
Amazing.
not big on it. I can't get behind skin on certain things. So
I I like the crunch.
I'm happy for you. You can have my zucchini skins all day long then if you
Well,
desire.
what I think
You
I
can
started
have
liking
all
them
my
because
zucchini.
I started when I peel the zucchini, I take those peelings and I chop them into like potato chips and I bake
Yeah.
them with some
Yeah.
Cajun spice. And then you have Cajun zucchini chips and it's wonderful.
I'm very happy for you. You can still have them.
You know what the problem with
Um,
zucchini is? People grow too much of it and then they try to pass it off on other people
Yeah.
and nobody wants it.
I want
I know
it.
you want it, Veronica, but
Yeah,
Give
no,
me
nobody
give
all
it.
your
There's a
zucchini.
gift to her. Next time you see her, just gift her your zucchini skins.
Gift me with your zucchini and I will gift you with zucchini bread.
Yeah, I was gonna say zucchini bread is probably the only way I could eat that. But
Zucchini
okay,
chips.
guys, are you all questioning what you're buying from the grocery store? Are you gonna think a little bit harder before buying some strawberries, maybe? Question mark. That's all that matters to me.
Hopefully.
Or apples, Ivan.
I rarely buy either of those things, so I'm good.
You just bummed me out. Thanks, man.
I'm sorry. That's why I started off with the Dirty Dozen and then led
At
into
least mangoes are on the good list,
yeah, and papayas and all that
right?
stuff.
So there you go.
And berries. So just
Yeah.
eat more
Avocados
berries.
from Mexico.
15 is a bigger number than 12. There's more good for you foods
Yes.
than not good for you foods. So
But like I said, we're all creatures of habit. We're going to eat the things that we love. I
Mhm.
just want you to be more mindful when it comes to washing them and knowing where they come from, okay?
Mhm.
Like if you see a farm that is in downtown Hamilton next to the highway, that is not good. It's got tons of
Less
pollution
good.
and chemicals being
Less
thrown at
good.
it. Just so you know, that's how organic works. So when you think of organic, they have to talk about the seed, they have to talk about the soil, they have to, and they also have to, in fact, where they're located.
Yep.
Okay. You can't just like grow a farm off the side of the highway and expect it to be the same as a farm that is all the way up in like Rockton. Okay.
Mhm.
They're obviously going to have very different environmental impacts. So, but if you're smart and you buy, like, just so you guys know, back to what we talked about actually last year, there are like farms that will give you ugly versions of their fruit that they
Second rate.
probably had from their farm and they will ship it to your front door. I know people who pay like literally $20.
Really?
Mhm.
Yeah, there's
Yep.
lots of farms in the Hamilton local area that will ship their
If
ugly produce.
if you're interested in a program like that,
Yep.
let us know. We can
Yes.
connect you with the right people.
Yeah, I think Mama Earth was one of the biggest ones out there. You can look them up. And then if you know there's a farm near you, message them and be like, because I know there are farms in Burlington that were like they had the same thing. Like they would drop off the produce on your front door on say like a Monday. And they were ugly or bruised or they just didn't sell very well or whatever for like, and you won't know what's going to come in them unless you like pick a very specific box that says like greens only or berries only or whatever. But you can almost guarantee they're going to give you the same thing that is coming from the whole entire season that year. So you'll see like the bananas and like the potatoes and the broccoli and the whatever, okay? And they are not, and I can almost guarantee you're going to save money because
Mhm.
you're going to get somebody who is a local farmer who doesn't have to raise the price to
Mhm.
the local grocery store to make their cut.
Mhm.
And they are not being sprayed with so many chemicals that they keep their price low, obviously. Because when we think about chemicals, we think that's more expensive, obviously. And then if they're just getting rid of it, then they're probably making a good buck off that too, because it was probably like they were gonna just throw it out into their compost later that day. So
And on that note, it's 10:30, so I have
Yes.
to duck out and get back to my day job.
anyways, does anybody have any more questions for me or anything they want to hear about for heart health in February or
If you have any requests for February's Heart Health special, send them to us. We will definitely
Yeah.
add them in.
for sure. That's February 4th, guys. Okay. Just keep that in your calendar.
All right.
But yes, thank you guys for
Thank you all
attending.
for coming.
All right.
Yay for
Hope to see you guys
2025.
tomorrow.
Yeah.
All right. Take care.
try.
Bye, guys.
Have a good night.
Yeah, I guess
Do I have
tomorrow
to do
is
anything about the recording?
Tomorrow's
first
Hamilton.
Wednesday, right?
Yeah, first Wednesday.